Brook, an 8th seed once again, second straight season. They're at that 8th seed, and on one hand, I'm shocked that they're actually ranked that high, and the NCAA gave that much respect considering how we've seen them kind of treated in the past. But an 8th seed going to be hosting Drexel for this first round contest. Should they win that, they likely will. Drexel, by the way, future CAA foe starting next year. So should they win that game, they'll face the winner of St. Joseph's and Rutgers, which could potentially mean another year of facing Rutgers in game 2 of the first round. And the winner of that will likely face top seeded North Carolina. And no, it's not Groundhog Day. This is what the committee decided to go with once again.
Yeah, I was intrigued by that, Ken. I was kind of taking a look at that. And, I know the 8th seed is a good seed, but unfortunately it puts them in the number 1 bracket.
Yes.
And having to face North Carolina. It's interesting how Florida got the 7 seed and Stony Brook got the 8 seed.
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of looked at that and I was like, in a head-to-head matchup, and we're talking 7 and 8, how that occurs, So that was really my intrigue on that one. When I looked through the other rankings, obviously Carolina, Maryland 2,
Boston 3.
What'd you say?
Boston at 3, yeah.
Right, yeah. Northwestern 4, yeah. Syracuse 5.
Yeah.
So I was kind of good with all that. I wasn't as concerned with that, but when Florida got 7 and Stony Brook got 8, I was kind of like, that's my beef right now, because then it puts you into the second bracket then, right? You play Mercer first, then you're either playing Jacksonville or Stanford in the next round. And I kind of was like, all right, that looks like a more of a doable, not a doable thing, but that seemed like it was realistic to me that should have been the way, and Florida should have gone into the other bracket against and played Drexel. So that was my one little look at it. I mean, they took care of business to win. Mm-hmm. They played the way that they were supposed to play the entire year. They ran it up in the America East, and I think next year in the CAA, if they have the same kind of success, you're not going to see them, I don't think, as an 8 seed. I think they'll get the 7 or the 6.
I'll say they'll definitely, I think, get a 6 seed for sure, because their Achilles heel has been you're an America East team. Sorry, your strength of schedule is too low. And credit for Florida. They did that last month. They've been on fire. Obviously, huge wins. The big difference was looking at RPI, and Stony Brook was a 5 and Florida was an 8. Well, in the last month, because Florida faced tough competition and won, they were able to flip spots with Stony Brook. And that was one reason why the pendulum swung in their favor. Of course, I think name brand obviously has a big deal with that. But as you're saying, is when you have the CEA and you face teams like Drexel, like Hofstra, like Towson, who they faced last year, normally, that's already built in your schedule. Their strength of schedule, Stony Brook right now is 22nd in the nation, which is honestly still pretty good considering how bad the America East is.
Right, yeah.
But it's definitely going to be in the teens next year, just facing CEA competition. And yeah, it's going to elevate them for sure. Maybe they're not a top 5 team, but they're going to be around that bubble.
Do you think that they're in a way in the America East, when it comes to the bracket situation, Ken, they're almost like a victim of their own success?
Yeah,
right. They make the America East look bad because they're so good.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. Absolutely no doubt about that. The America East, well, who got the automatic bid here? Because I'm looking at it right now.
Vermont on both teams.
Yeah, Vermont on both teams.
Let's talk about that for a minute, right?
Yeah.
You got to imagine, if you're Uvalde, you're thinking, oh, this is a piece of cake. Facing Stony Brook 9 years straight, 8 years straight, whatever it is. We've gotten the hammer to us the last 7 of it. Got one win against them back in the early days. Oh, we're finally going to be champs again. And in comes Vermont, almost out of nowhere, has a great last closing 4, 5, 6 games of the season, and all of a sudden just takes the win right under you. And, to me, I felt at the beginning of the year, UAlbany winning this tournament was the easiest lock, I think, out of all, maybe Vermont and men's basketball. Those were, I think, the 2 easiest locks. And here we go. And Vermont comes out of nowhere, takes the women's lacrosse tournament and gets that automatic qualifier bid. I mean, what a joke for UAlbany to just lose that. It was like, right in your hands and you can't even catch it.
Yeah. And you know what? And not even to lose, but you lose it by a goal.
Yep.
Right. It's like, that's insult to injury when that something like that occurs, right? To just have that, break down in front of you. But yeah, a good weekend from now. Interestingly enough, and we've been railing on the America East, and rightfully so. But at this moment, this makes the America East look good because now it's a 2-conference league.
That's also interesting. Yeah, it does, because now we go into a little bit of the what ifs. And what if, for example, Stony Brook did end its winning streak in the America East Conference and get knocked out in the tournament? Probably would have gotten in as an even lower seed. Now,
yeah, definitely.
I do have one thing to say about an 8 seed. Now, yes, people would say, hey, Stony Brook's lucky they got in because they didn't win their conference and couldn't even play in the conference tournament. Okay, fine. But my beef is that teams that either they beat or were ranked below them got higher seeds.
Yeah, Florida we talked about. Obviously.
Florida being one of them. But,
yeah.
I mean, okay, Florida plays in a power conference, tougher schedule, blah, blah, blah. But still, Stony Brook was ranked higher. Okay? The 1, 2, 3, 4, all those teams were ranked above Stony Brook. Okay, I can live with that. But I can't live with Loyola Maryland being ranked higher.
That one shocked me, I thought. That was another one where, I think the big thing is you look at Loyola, their record is 18-1. I think it's the best record in terms of how many games they played. I think is the most. But their strength of schedule compared to Stony Brook is worse, which is honestly incredible because when you realize, again, Stony Brook's playing in the weakest conference statistically in the America East. And Loyola they're going out of their way to play inferior competition. So their strength of schedule is at 25 in the nation.
They're taking it for granted.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Loyola Maryland, and yes, you got to thank the men's national championship recently for that too. That they can realize they can skate on what they've got. Meanwhile, Joe Spallina has upgraded his non-conference schedule to the point where it rivals power conferences' regular season schedules. Okay, in conference schedules, and he beats 5 ranked teams, and still sometimes I wonder if it's personal. Year after year after year, Stony Brook finding some way to slide them when they deserve better. Now, we knew they weren't going to say no to the number 6 team in the nation. That was a given. We were a little worried. I think we were all a little worried that because they didn't play a tournament that they would somehow get shortchanged, and I guess this is the way for them to do it. But there is one bright side. They do get a home game out of the deal, which means
potentially.
Yes, potentially 2 home games. So that's not so bad.
No. That was honestly the most shocking part to me is honestly, I know there's a lot of frustration on Stony Brook's side. We hear a lot, you see a lot of y'all on social media, and I get it. But honestly, I said it last week, I'd be stunned if they weren't 8 just because it's so, to me, so NCAA selection committee to put them at a 9 or a 10 because they're not playing for that conference tournament. Not that I think they need to, but I was shocked. I was thankful. I think that they're actually a top 8 seed at least, despite how eerily similar this is to last year when they actually competed and won for a conference tournament, where you're essentially facing the same teams again. Just swap out Towson for Drexel.
The only thing that, of course, is a downside of all this, and I'm showing Matthew Kearns this, take a look at this. They can beat every team in this bracket. They're untested, I think, against North Carolina this year anyway. North Carolina is undefeated, and they did beat up on teams in their own conference, kind of like what Stony Brook did in the America East. Right. So no matter who they face, I think they have a great chance of getting to North Carolina. The only problem is beating North Carolina only puts you in the Final Four.
Exactly.
Yeah, isn't that something? You beating North Carolina would be like winning the national championship, but it only gets you to the Final Four weekend.
Right. It's like the Giants beat the Patriots, and all of a sudden, great, you're actually still in the conference championship game.
Yeah, I mean that is a really good point. And
that happened. Remember Knicks and Bulls in the NBA, Greg, in particular. That. Remember that? Those in a way, those were the de facto finals. And somebody made a point about Michael Jordan, quote unquote, never playing in a Game 7, never playing a Game 7 in the finals, but did play Game 7s in the Eastern Conference against the Pistons and the Knicks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking at it though too. Let's give Loyola a little bit of credit here though. I understand they're 19-1 or 18-1, excuse me. So they're 18-1, but they did beat Florida 12-9. Right. And so that's the comparable win. And they did lose to Syracuse by a goal, 14-13. So when you're kind of looking at that, and then you say to yourself, they play in the Patriot League, and the Patriot League is going to be a tougher league than the America East. So I think that's got to be what gets them the 7 seed. right?
In both men's and
I
women's
respect it.
lacrosse, the Patriot League is tougher.
Right. Yeah.
In basketball, it is, but in the other sports, it is.
Yeah, I think too, just really them playing more games, I think is what the committee looked at, which I don't think is as fair because for a team like Stony Brook, how many opportunities were there? Obviously, you're limited in the amount of conference games, especially compared to the Patriot League, and then non-conference wise, so they're essentially every week they were playing twice a week, and they still had a hole remaining that they couldn't get filled. But and so obviously, Loyola, they finished 18-1 because they were able to play 19 games.
Right.
Stony Brook, I think, could have finished 16, 17-2 as well, but they just didn't have the opportunity.
What they have, Matt, we've talked about this as well too with their location. They being down in Baltimore, they get to play Hopkins, they get to play Towson, they get to play Georgetown. They in their backyard they have a multitude of games and teams they can play without even having to travel.
Which is why Stony Brook engaging any of them in the regular season is a relative rarity. I mean, Stony Brook did play Hopkins, for example. Matter of fact, Hopkins came to us. That's highly unusual.
And Hopkins makes it into the tournament as well too as one of the bubble seats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of teams Stony Brook beat in this bracket. And they go up against Duke. Now, which one's tougher? I mean, North Carolina gets the top seed by virtue of being undefeated, but you can never discount Maryland. Maryland has owned women's lacrosse ever since it became an NCAA sport.
Exactly. That's the one silver lining, too, for Greg Goals, is that, obviously UNC is going to be the tougher one. They're the only undefeated team, true number one. I think they're going all the way. But as you said, Maryland, it would be a little easier, but really how much so? Because, they only have one loss on the season. They've been just as dominant, I think. And just history-wise, too, Stony Brook, them facing UNC and Maryland, it hasn't really gone Stony Brook's way. Those two teams have been keen on really shutting down their Stony Brook attack and really dominating defensively against Seawolves, which outside of those two teams, it's tough to find other squads. Northwestern, Florida, past few seasons, Boston, those teams have done it, I thought, good, but not to the level that North Carolina and Maryland have in terms of dominating Stony Brook.
Yeah, I watched BC and I watched North Carolina play. I mean, I didn't watch the ACC championship. I watched the semis, so I watched pieces. But I mean, they've got some players.
Absolutely.
I mean, they are, and the woman North from BC is phenomenal. Yeah, she is phenomenal to watch.
That's crazy thing. She was the all-time goals leader for 1 year because her goal scoring record got replaced earlier this week as well.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's unbelievable. I mean, so she's phenomenal. I think North Carolina is excellent as well too. I actually was looking at the bracket here a little bit myself, and I was thinking, if you're North Carolina, I think you like it because you're the 8. You're playing the 1 and you're playing the 8. You feel like you got an athletic advantage against Stony Brook. But any given day, I think Stony Brook could beat them. They do have a fighter's chance. Maryland, you're feeling good about Florida as the 7 seed. You feel like you're definitely better than them. That's, I think, an easier bracket. But I take a look at the Syracuse Northwestern, the 4-5 bracket over there. Man, that's a tough bracket. I think it could go either way. Northwestern is really good. Syracuse is very good. Oh, I mean, it's going to be an interesting, no matter what happens. And obviously we want the women to win. We want Stony Brook to win. That's what we want. But no matter what happens, this is going to be a fantastic, and not even Final Four. I think it's going to be a fantastic Elite 8 on.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's really, everybody talks about going to the Final Four and watching the semifinal games because the semifinal games are usually better than the championship games because of the back-to-back situation. You're playing, with the 1 day rest.
Well, not only that,
do that.
Once you filter out the lower teams, the elite teams going head to head, that's going to be a higher quality game no matter what you do.
That's why I think the Elite 8, when you look at the top 8 here, I think any one of them could win. Like, if everybody holds seed, right, Matt? Mm-hmm. And the higher ranked teams win out, right? So the 1 through 8 gets into the Elite 8. Whew, man, that is a good looking bracket right there.
Yeah.
I mean, that is really going to be a fun. It's a shame that all 8 of them aren't played in one location because that would be a great weekend of lacrosse to watch.
Well,
it really would be.
It would be. The only problem is, and this debate translates to other sports too. You want especially the first round games, especially women's lacrosse, to be home, because that's where you can get the best crowds.
Yeah,
to be the home of the top seed. I mean, Laval Stadium is going to be, if not packed, pretty close.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
definitely. And if they get a chance to host Rutgers as well too, it'll absolutely be rocking there, right? Because
we saw last year as well. It was
proximity.
Yeah, we saw last year of limited crowd, but there was still a very vocal crowd for both sides.
So Friday the 13th,
right? Yeah,
is the first round, and it opens. Okay, I mean, first of all, the first round in any NCAA sport is always the most fun because it has the most games. But you will start at noon with Drexel and Stony Brook. We'll be on the air at 11:45, and we shall just follow them as far as they go. But I'm just looking at the start times for all the others. Loyola Maryland and Mount St. Mary's will be also beginning at the same time, and what else at noon? That's it. There are going to be 2 noon games. You're going to have a lot of choices here. Now,
Stony Brook moves on to also play at noon on Sunday.
Right. Okay, but another important thing here is that who's carrying the games? Are we broadcasting them ourselves, or is ESPNU carrying them? In other words, the video.
Imagine. Oh, right. I can't imagine.
I mean, WUSB is going to be broadcasting the games, obviously.
Sure,
yeah.
Yeah, I'd imagine ESPN. ESPN Plus has definitely been big. I think on the TV side, so I wouldn't be shocked to see that. See our old friend from the station, Kylie O'Miller, probably commentating those games.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, probably get her in for
during halftime. Post game, yeah.
But even with that too, I think we kind of focus now more so on the players who are going to be representing Stony Brook, because a lot of all conference selections for the Seawolf squad. I said it last week. It's not really a surprise, but some folks online were, for whatever reason. 5 Seawolves earned major awards. Essentially, every major award was won by Stony Brook women's lacrosse player or coach. Kaylin Hart, Attacker of the Year. Ellie Macera, Midfielder of the Year. Haley Dillon, Defender of the Year. Charlie Campbell, Goalkeeper of the Year. Spallina, obviously, Coach of the Year for the 6th time. And, I mean, just what another tremendous squad he set up. Greg, I don't know where you want to start with just how incredible his team played so far.
Yeah, you know what? I kind of I marvel at the, it's a combo deal, right? It's Coach Spallina and his staff, and how he was able to meld in the transfers with the returners. And I also think they just had the right amount of seniors, grads, and young players that were kind of mixed into the mix. It wasn't like a situation where you had grad players coming in taking away playing time from older players. So that made the situation a little easier. But I think just melding it together in this 1 year situation, we're going to have a couple years of this, right? And then it'll die back down again. But with this transfer stuff, because of the pandemic, I thought that he did an excellent job, and I thought the players. Now I will say, and I was kind of like jumping on how good UNC and BC were, and how good their players were. I think Ellie Macera is as athletic as any of them.
Oh, by the way, we should mention, we haven't yet. Drexel is the CAA champion.
Mm-hmm. It's preview for next year, potentially.
That's fun. It's fun.
Yeah. So we will be facing our future conference's current champion, and they're going to get a taste of what it's going to be like to play Stony Brook, because now the CAA is considered an upgrade, right?
Yes.
So Drexel they are going to be ready to show us something, because this upstart team is coming into our conference. Of course, not really an upstart. Everybody knows how established the program is, but being able to hold serve against the newcomer in the CAA will be crucial for a team like Drexel. But we shall see. Now, I have a personal opinion about the Seawolves winning so many America East awards. They've earned them, no question about it. The only thing about it is it kind of reminds me of an opposing home run at Yankee Stadium. Throw it back.
Yeah, I know.
Or the 1972 men's basketball silver medal that the team never accepted. Matter of fact, they don't even know where all the medals are.
The only thing I'm going to say with that, and I understand it, but I think you need to be an America East first team all conference selection, and I think you have to be an award winner, right? You have to be a defender of the year, you have to be a midfielder of the year to possibly get All American. I think if you don't get one of those, then I think that kind of like hinders you from the ability to jump into that upper echelon, And I think
we'll give you a trophy, but we don't want to play you. That's
right.
It's sour. I understand your point of view too, but it just gives me a slightly bad taste in my mouth. Now, as far as the athletic department is concerned, they are playing it for all it's worth, as if nothing happened, which is probably the classy thing to do. But
and that's how I look
as
at
a fan and as an alum and everything like that, I'm like,
what does it matter to us? Right?
You know what?
Yeah,
guys. Now, of course, Greg, I know you've seen it, but have you ever seen the original Bad News Bears movie from the 70s?
Yeah, right. Of course, yeah.
Tanner Boyle.
Yep.
Take your trophy and your apologies and shove them.
Yeah.
That's it's exactly. I want to put that on Facebook. This is why I think of the American East Awards.
Now, I think that midfielder of the year thing for Ellie Massara, I mean, that goes with the Tewaaraton and being, I think,
that keeps her in the conversation.
That keeps her in the conversation, and I think, in all seriousness, she needs to have, and I think for her to win the whole thing, Stony Brook needs to have a nice run, because she's becoming an established name. She was mentioned on the selection show. And she was yes, Ken, you were absolutely right. And touted as listen, she's going to be the next young star. She's only a sophomore coming into it. Right. But I think this could be her coming out party. And if she does, man, I mean, she could really be there.
Right. And they highlighted Hart as well. And Rafferty, Hart, obviously attacker of the year, 57 goals. Sarah led the team, 58 goals, 76 points. And I think just as many draw control battles. She does everything. And we're talking about, at the end of last season, start of this season, obviously, who's going to replace the Allie Kennedy role? Because that was what Allie Kennedy was doing at this rate. And obviously, Massara was front runner. That was who Spalina had as well to replace her. And she's lived up to that in every way. It's just her speed. It's incredible. Her scoring ability is again, it's phenomenal, as you said. And for her, I think, again, to be in the Tewaaraton conversation, especially this late into the season, is a testament to that. How good she's been, her skill, but really how prominent she's played a role in this dynamic Stony Brook attack.
You know what I really enjoy about her game, and it's one of the things, and she has improved as the year has gone on. Make note of it. It's not just that she had a good year. She's had a good year, and she's improving. She is so quick. She's got a great first step, and man, can she shoot on the run.
Yep.
I mean, that's the difference in her game than most players' games. Most players' games, they can get their hands free, or they get to a spot, they catch it, and then when their hands free, they can shoot and score. She can create her shot and then make the shot. I mean, she really is a fun player to watch. She's got a great motor. She's got a great first step. Man, she's going to be a good one for a handful of years now. Yeah. She's going to take the CAA by storm next year, for sure.
Exactly, and it's scary because, again, this is everything verbatim we were saying about Allie Kennedy the last 4 years. It's like she's on pace to replicate exactly what Kennedy was doing. It's phenomenal in that part. And, again, with how proponent this attack's been, with Hart, Sapolsky, who's one of those transfers from UAlbany, first team all-conference, 21 goals. Midfield-wise, obviously, Reina Sabella, who took a big step up offensively. I knew she was great defensively, was co-defender of the year last year, 26 goals and 32 points. I did not know she had that in her. Very impressed. Hats off to her, obviously. She's so great, I think, as a great two-way player. Jaden Hampel on the attack, Levy as well in the midfield. Great job from those ladies. Again, really keeping the offense up, because we know how good this defense is. Outside of UNC, it's tough to find a defense as strong as Stony Brook's. Obviously, Haley Dillon winning Defender of the Year, a big proponent of that. Just her leadership on the field, her captaincy as well, an uncrowned captain, I call her, because she doesn't have the C on her jersey, but everyone on the field knows. You got a problem or you want to talk strategy, Dillon's the athlete to go to.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. Charlie Campbell gets goalie of the year, and they could have put them both as they co-goalies of the year. To be honest with you, that embarrassment of riches there for them in the goal, and I can still see why wouldn't you bounce back between the two of them? I mean, Ken, like they did during the season. We talked about one started here, one did this, one did it. But they played this half, this one played that half. You're going Friday, Sunday. hey, that's a lot of rubber to see potentially in 2 games and to be energized about. Maybe you need to, flip flop. Maybe you need to halves, or maybe you need, when you have it, use it. Don't overthink it. Do what you've been doing with them. So,
Yeah.
but do we want to take a look at Drexel's schedule here for a second? I got it up in front of me.
Just quickly before
let's do that.
Yeah. Well, just quickly
Yeah.
before that as well, just
I'm sorry. Yeah,
with the goalie tandem. Something we kind of saw last year, because Haley Hunt was the secondary goalie for Stony Brook. She actually came in, played a lot of that game against UMBC, and then I believe Halsell was back in net for Albany. But they split time during that first round game before Halsell went the rest of the way through. As you said, you have someone in Charlie Campbell. They come in obviously from the ACC. Essentially, they battle starting spot with Halsell, does a tremendous job, wins goaltender of the year, only gives up less than 5 goals per game, and a save percentage over 55%. I mean, at that point, when you're riding a hot streak like that, do you pull them for Halsell, who's just a good goalie? But also keep in mind the strategy that if they face Rutgers in that secondary game, not only does Halsell have experience against Rutgers from last year, but she played with them her first 2 seasons. Right. So she knows the strategies and what her former teammates are doing.
But I would have said no, Ken, but they've been doing it all season long. It's not something that we haven't seen from them. It's not like suddenly Coach Spallina is going to be like, Halsell, you're going to come in and you're going to play in here. This is something you've seen all year long for them. So I don't think it would be something that would be like necessarily out of the norm. Maybe you start Campbell and if you put Halsell in the second half.
Right. Let's say he's almost like tryouts for who's going to be starting at UNC.
Right. Yeah. Well, but you know what? That also, in a lot of ways, keeps things. When you look at kind of what Coach Spallina does here, especially in their games where they get a lead in, he injects certain players in and looks to see if they produce, and then if they do produce, they get a little more leash in the next game. And if he does that with his field players, why wouldn't you do it? Your goal is. I was watching you listen, a lot of watching time for me this weekend. So I was watching both the men's and women's lacrosse games this weekend, amongst other things as well too. But I was thinking to myself, man, with so many games and so many shots, and the players are so much better than they ever were before, why wouldn't you have 2 goalies?
Right. It's almost ingenious, right?
Yeah. Like, you're playing that 19 games right here. So Drexel's 12-7. It's 19 games. I mean, that's a lot of lacrosse. 18-1. Right, for Loyola.
Look at those last 3.
A lot of lacrosse.
Look at those last 3. You got the schedule for Drexel, right? Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, first of all, you have to go back to the standings because they finished 3rd, the 3 seed in the tournament, right? James Madison and Towson ahead of them. They finished 4-2 and 12-7 overall. And that again, the 12-7 you look at does not count the 2 tournament games because they beat Hofstra. And the games were all held in Philadelphia. Talk about the central location. Because Madison, but that's interesting too, because I think that's a predetermined location because Madison finished undefeated in conference, so they should have had the top seed. They did. So
yeah, but James Madison is the same as Stony Brook. Right. They're leaving conference, so they don't get to play in the CAA tournament. They got an at-large bid, same as Stony Brook did.
Yeah, okay, because Hofstra and Towson were the teams that Drexel down to win the championship, and they beat Towson in OT, and Towson's not going. So Madison is in, Towson and Drexel is in, and of course they'll be taking on Stony Brook. But just to give you an idea, I mean that's a tough conference right there, and they're sending 2 as well. But 2 worthy. I mean James Madison is just as worthy as Stony Brook, and they won 10 in a row, and they finished 13-4 overall. Just want to give an idea of who James Madison played outside of their conference. And I'm looking. They lost to North Carolina in their opener, 15-8. Okay.
Everyone lost to North Carolina.
Lost to Penn State, lost to Rutgers, who is in the tournament, and have not lost since. They will take on UConn in the NCAA and Virginia Tech. So those are the 4 losses they had. They beat UConn, High Point, Ohio State. They beat Richmond. They beat UVA. Okay, these are teams that are UVA's in. They beat Maryland. That was the team that beat Maryland. Maryland has one loss, right? That's it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then, of course, they went undefeated in conference. Towson, Hofstra, Elon, Liberty, William & Mary, and Delaware, and Drexel. Then they beat Drexel last game of the season, 18-12. So, again, you beat the champion, just like Stony Brook did. So, yeah, they're in. But it just tells you what the CAA is going to be like next year. Yeah. With James Madison out, but again, Drexel's got something to prove.
Yeah, I almost wonder if you're the CAA current members, if you're saying to yourself, "Awesome, James Madison's out. Damn it, Stony Brook's in."
You gotta, right?
I think Stony Brook is tougher, but James Madison's non-conference record, their credentials are almost as good as Stony Brook's.
Yeah, but the difference is
they didn't get a seeding.
But James Madison won it in 2018.
Overall, the whole thing. That's also true.
They won the whole thing in 2018, so there's that. You have that, right?
Yeah, it's like having won an Oscar.
Yeah, it never gets taken away from you.
F. Murray Abraham, who played had supporting role in the movie Amadeus, we're talking about almost 40 years ago. He won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, and he said, "With this, I will never lack for work. May not be the best work, but someone's always going to be calling me because I have the Oscar."
Yeah.
And in a way, that guy puts you in with the establishment. You become part of the establishment having won, especially recently.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's going to be something obviously Stony Brook's looking to do, and they got a good shot here in the women's tournament. Facing a tough Drexel team, obviously. Some players I really want to point out as well. Carson Harris, obviously, she is the attack for Drexel, 62 goals, has and shoulders above everyone else. Her draw control game also dangerous, 74 draw controls, matching Ellie Macera. She's the all-time draw control leader, I believe, in the CAA, all-time, 328. So
now that to me, Ken, and you know how I feel about the draw control. That to me is the concern if I was Stony Brook going into the tournament, is the draw control, because my fear is that they're going to have to use Ellie Macera with the draws, and it's going to pull her away from the other facets of her game, right? And
means other people have to step up, and they've done it before. I mean, I still remember when Siobhan Rafferty came up out of nowhere with like 3 straight goals to get Stony Brook going in one game. Yeah, so they have the firepower to, if they do have to rely on Macera, they do have sufficient firepower to compensate.
Who else do we like from Drexel's team here?
Corrine Bednarik as well. She actually leads draw controls with 95. And is their quarterback, essentially 26 assists, 62 points on the season. Both of them, by the way, shooting above 40% on the season. Harris shooting was at 50% so far this season. A lot of free position goal opportunities for her as well. So she's someone who literally, battles through the contact. And, she's getting to the goal whether you foul her or not.
Yeah, they do have some players that can put some points up, right? 70, 62 for
Bednarik,
Yeah, Bednarik.
And Colleen Grady was right under them at 59.
Yeah, no, 59, 47 for Schneidenderith.
Yep, Schneidenderith.
Schneidenderith. I mean,
really, her goal scoring ability is pretty impressive. 42 on the season, 47 points for her.
And then Drake with 33. I mean, they can load it up themselves too. Simpson with 29 points, so they can certainly get it going as well. And I guess for them the question is going to be in the goal as well too. Yeah, I mean, she looks like a seasoned veteran to me here, right? She got the majority of starts, played the majority of the time. So graduate student as well too. Wow, so you're looking at somebody who's not going to be rattled in this situation, and super excited. I can remember just not getting it when I was younger, but when I was watching the selection shows, the younger players, they're excited to make the tournament. The older players are ecstatic, right? Because it's their last go through.
But they also came back to take care of business.
Yes.
And for especially the veteran Seawolves players, like we've been saying, all these little setbacks that they've had in the tournament, and now an opportunity to break through I mean, and every time they get in is an opportunity to break through because, as we said, they can go toe to toe with anybody in the country. They like their chances.
Yeah, I like them as well too. To be honest with you, I think it's going to be fun. I think it's fun down to the Elite Eight, and then you start. You can never say that it's a breeze, though. That's not really fair to say.
Well, no, Drexel won't be a breeze. We just explained why.
Right. Last year versus Towson, another CAA rival, Stony Brook won 14-8, but that was a close one the entire way. Stony Brook led 5-2 at the end of the first half. It was how tight it was. It really wasn't until that game against Rutgers where Stony Brook had a comfortable lead. And that they played UAlbany kind of tight. So that second half, they outscored UAlbany 7-5. And again, that first half of UMBC was 11-8 last year. So they're on a better pace this year for sure. But yeah, there's no easy wins in the NC tournament. This team believes they're an Elite Eight, a Final Four, even a championship caliber team. So it's going to be, now's the time where the season really starts for them. Now is proving time because, their goal obviously for right now is to face UNC and pull off the upset. So, it's about making it there, and they have an extra week, more time off, more so than a lot of other teams in the NCAA tournament, missing conference play. So, it's a pretty important week the past 10 or so days for women's lacrosse.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think when I look at the CAA, just the last comment for me is when I look at the CAA, I say to myself, it's not that the high end players are better than the America East high end players; it's the back end players are better. It's your third defenseman, your third attackman, your third and fourth midfielders, right? They're better, so therefore your team is better, right? Exactly. So I think that's what I think is going to make the game more difficult for Stony Brook coming up in between for Drexel and then for Rutgers.
Okay. We had a busy weekend. Well, actually, in between raindrops and absolutely abysmal weather. I mean, today's conditions, the temperature might have read in the 50s, but with the unrelenting wind, it felt like the 30s. But baseball, and yes, they did have to tack. They did tack on 9 innings. Thinking they swept, but they did sweep anyway, beating UMBC in walk-off fashion again in the short game in 8 innings, 3-2, and in the long game, which I thought was going to be another short game because I had forgotten about the American East policy of a 7 and a 9 on a doubleheader, 6-3. And they had it won in the 7th inning with 2 runs. So I thought for sure that was it, but nope, nothing doing. But in any case, the Stony Brook Seawolves, of course, they now find themselves in a very interesting position because they're not going for the conference tournament. But take a look at the standings, folks. They are knocking on Maine's door, and Maine had been dominant the entire season.
Yeah, that's right. Maine just had their million-game winning streak come to an end. They're right now on a 2-game losing streak.
And Stony Brook is only 2 games behind them right now.
That's right, and they own the tiebreaker. So, Stony Brook. Go ahead.
They had won the series, right? They
took swept. They took all 3 games.
No, they didn't sweep. Second series of the conference season, they took 2 of 3 up.
I'm talking about this weekend. I'm talking about the 3 games this weekend.
Oh, yeah. No, they swept this weekend while Maine dropped 2 of 3. So Stony Brook gains 2 games. They're now 2 games back in the standings with the tiebreaker. So effectively, they're 1 game back. I'm sure just so the America East could screw the baseball team one more time. If Maine and Stony Brook finished with identical records, they'd probably give the regular season title to Maine because Stony Brook was eliminated from, they'd find some reason to not give us that banner.
Except they didn't do it in women's lacrosse. Women's lacrosse, we took it out, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
They'll say Joe Nathan doesn't have lights. They'll look at the forecast 16 hours before and decide, oops, it's raining. Let's move it out.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Stony Brook will finish a half game back of the
game's called on account of darkness at 3 p.m.
There you go.
Right, exactly. And look, if you're Stony Brook baseball right now, if you're Matt Sank, you don't want the America East to have to even make a decision. Why would you trust them anymore? Just outwin Maine. If Maine wins 18 games, you win 19. Obviously, that's not possible. Maine's already reached 19 wins, but I'm just saying, win more games than Maine. At this point, the assignment is simple. They've got 6 games to go, 6 games in conference to go, 2 games back. You're going to need some outside help. They haven't gotten a whole lot of it this year. Maybe they get lucky, but hey, it ain't over till it's over. So,
well, and the other thing too, just for this baseball team, they've been on a roll the past couple of weeks. Obviously, sweep against NGIT, defeating Hofstra. I think they swept the season series.
Yeah. They only played.
That's the only one. Yeah, that was the only one for baseball.
And they
stomped on them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Hofstra, by the way, is 3rd in the CAA.
Right, and they were 2nd going into that game, and coming out. Obviously, that didn't affect their conference standing.
But I mean, if you stomp on the 3rd best team in the CAA, it means that if you keep your team intact. And the other thing that you have to be happy with is the performance of your underclass pitching staff. Colton Book got another win. Solid performance.
Colton Book,
that was my next question too. I guess Mike could go, well, really, what's changed for this baseball team the last couple of years compared to how they played beforehand?
That's a good question.
Colton Book's become,
I wouldn't say
solid.
Yeah, well, Colton Book has developed.
Been solid.
I mean, 3 starts in a row, Colton Book has really just put on a show, and his outing was even better than the stats show. I mean, there was in the top of whatever it was, 4th inning, Evan Giordano and Stanton Luthner, who are usually reliable fielders, they forgot how to catch a ball.
And 2 grounders in a row,
and 3 unearned runs scored, So really, Colton Book, who allowed no earned runs today in 6 innings, he was outstanding. And it's not just Colton Book. I mean, really the whole pitching staff has been a lot better. Really the whole second half of the season. I mean, look at Josh O'Neill's stats. Going back to the second to last week of March, Josh O'Neill has been outstanding out of the pen. I spoke to Matt Senk about it today. About
3
Josh.
innings, 1 hit, 1 walk, 2 Ks, no runs.
Right, got the save today.
Yep.
I think that might have been save number 3 for him.
Yes.
And Josh, in that time frame, really since the second to last week of March until now, he's been he might be better than Brendan Patterman over that time statistically. I don't have the statistics with me anymore. I wish I did, but he's only had 1 bad outing, and it was that game against Binghamton. And really, he has been a key piece to this Stony Brook team's success because, I mean, we're 8 series into the conference season now. Stony Brook's won 7 out of 8 series, and then of course there's Ben Farrow, who's been very reliable. He had another good start on Friday.
Oh, he's been much better than Patterman over the last 3 outings in particular. But really, since
but he's had a good year, he's allowed to, he's entitled to.
But looking at Patterman, I mean, starting with the last 3 against the NJIT on April 30th, 4 runs on 5 hits and 2 2/3. Hofstra, 2 runs on 4 hits and 1 2/3. But by that point in the game, it was basically here, hit it. And on Friday against UMBC, much better, 2 runs on 2 hits in 3 innings.
Right, but that's still not very good.
He still has to be a bit more shut down. But yes, there's no doubt O'Neill has been better recently than Patterman.
Right, but either way, it's not that we're pulling rank or anything like that. It's just that it's showing you that some of these guys are developing. We've said several times over the last couple of broadcasts, the rest of this season, really, being that they can't win the conference, they can't go to the NCAAs. The rest of this season, other than trying to win the regular season championship, is going to be crucial for all the non-regulars, right? All the bench players, all the freshmen, all the pitchers who are in the middle of bad seasons. It's going to be important to take something positive into next year. And Josh O'Neill is one of those guys, man. Right now, if 2023 were next week, Josh O'Neill would be in my rotation. Josh O'Neill and Colton Book. I mean, why wouldn't they be? And of course, Brendan Patterman's had a good season too.
But what about Brendan Lashley? I mean,
right,
Lashley,
and Brendan Lashley,
the opener.
I was going to get to him. Brendan Lashley had the best outing of his career today.
2 runs on 5 hits in 7 innings.
That impressed me a lot.
Right, yeah. Brandon he's been up and down this year. He's either been good or bad. You know,
but
you'd
recently
like to see,
not bad. I mean, 2 runs on 4 hits. The first meeting against UMBC on the road, and 5 innings, no runs on 3 hits against NJIT. Not
Right.
bad.
The Hofstra outing where he really started to find himself.
Well, he didn't pitch against. Last year, he didn't pitch against Hofstra.
No, yeah. Sank doesn't pitch his regulars in the midweek games.
That was O'Neill. Oops.
No, O'Neill and Jack Carr finished it. I think Devin Sharkey started that day. So anyway, but Brandon Lashley, who I've spoken about several times on this show, because I like Brandon Lashley. I've spoken to him before. He's in one of my classes. You know, he's a really good guy. He only pitched 1 game through the first 2 years of his career. That was in 2020, March of 2020 as a freshman. 2021, he got Tommy John surgery. You know, it is not easy to come back from Tommy John, especially when you're 21 years old, you know? Mm-hmm. And this year, I mean, given the fact that he's coming back from Tommy John, I'd have to say this year has been a success for Brandon Lashley. The numbers aren't really that good. I think the ERA is 4.72. That's obviously not good, But
again, you know, you throw out now, do the big old conference switch here because you really can't go by the early season schedule, and when you start looking at these guys and start looking at their conference, I mean, Colton Book is 1.89 in conference. O'Neill's at 4.13. Lashley's a little high at 4.89, but still, I mean, Colton's been absolutely stunning with the way he's pitched.
Yeah, and you know, doing it out of the pen too. I mean, no matter the role he's been given, he's been outstanding in it.
Absolutely.
And it's been a 3-pitch mix that's working for him. You know, fastball, curveball, changeup. He's just.
I was going to say the off-speed stuff. To me, just watching it, it's more noticeable now because I think early on you noticed the heater a lot more, but now really the off-speed stuff is a changeup. You said, yeah, that definitely has been more noticeable, and I think batters aren't picking up on it. And that's really been, I think, a testament to how well he's pitched it so far.
Right, and he's a funky lefty. You know, he's not
honestly, yeah.
He's not an easy tosser. So exactly. Someone like him is naturally going to be hard to hit, and if he's throwing strikes, he's going to be unhittable. Colton Book may very well wind up being the ace of this staff. You know, and I mean, I've been singing the praises of JT Rabb ever since I came back. Obviously, we're not going to be able to see JT Rabb until next year, but. You know, if JT Rabb is as advertised, you're going to have JT Rabb and Colton Book in the same rotation. Yeah. Like, they could be just stellar. I mean, we thought Turcotte, Milch, DeGennaro, and Herman was really good. Just wait, you know? But either way, the ultimate point is that not only does Stony Brook have several high-quality bats, I mean, Matt Brown-Airing, come on, man. What a week. What a week he had.
What a season. But yeah, exactly. What a week for him. You know, you told me that he was going to be, right now, looking at the batting averages, he's right under Giordano in the season. He's batting .314. I would not have believed that at the start of the season. He has caught fire.
I wouldn't have either. I mean, look, I remember Matt. I played against Matty Brown-Airing when we were younger. And he's a good guy. Right. And he was always a good hitter, you know? So it's not shocking to me. I've seen this before. Connecticut had a great program all throughout, you know, my high school career. So I can't say that I'm shocked when I see Matt Brown-Airing slugging .574. I honestly can't say that I'm shocked. But given how little he played last year and seeing what he's become a D1 cleanup hitter. And, you know, perhaps the best in the conference. 44 RBIs. That's no joke. In 43 games. More RBIs than games played. So,
and that carries over into conference too. 28 RBIs in 24 games played, and he's a average and a 645 slugging in conference. So, I mean, yeah, at the beginning of the season, he got off to a pretty slow start. But
just about everyone except Stanton Lutzner got off to a slow start. You know,
also very true. But he's also been pretty reliable in left field too.
Oh yeah,
and you move him to right in a pinch.
Right, exactly. Well, yeah, I mean that's the easiest move. The harder move is the fact that he's actually a third baseman. You know, third base to left field. It is easier to play the outfield. Sorry, outfielders.
But with Evan Giordano batting .368, he's not going to displace him quite. Not just yet.
No, I mean Evan Giordano coming into year 4, he has a blank check. He's earned that spot. Nobody's taking third base from him.
Right.
And it would be the same next year too. It doesn't matter, if Matt Brown-Airing's proven himself as a good left fielder, you wouldn't even bother screwing with it until Giordano's gone. But yeah, man, I mean, they've got 6 proven bats. I love Ryan Michelli. I'm very high on Chris Leone. Of all the freshman hitters, he's having the best season. He had another good day today. RBI single. Mm-hmm. Single-handedly stole a run. Steals third base. Third baseman drops the ball. A lot of that from UMBC today, by the way. I mean, you want to talk ugly baseball? UMBC. Yep. It wasn't just dropping balls. It was the ground ball to first base and the pitcher and first baseman not connecting. It was throws from the catcher going into the outfield.
I think they could have
it was the little league stuff.
They got 3 errors
it really is.
More.
Right, and then Stony Brook, of course. I mean, I think you just said that, Matt. But Stony Brook had some sloppiness today. I mean, the Little League home run that Drew Roberts hit. Look, if you're Derek Yallen, I get it. You're up 2-0 and there's 2 outs.
Was that ever scored a home run or triple third on the throw?
No, well, it was ruled a triple, and it should have been ruled a triple. But we call them Little League home runs when you around the bases. And so, on a play like that. I get it. I get where Derek's coming from. By the way, Derek, high school teammate of Matt Brown-Airing at Connecticut. Anyway, that's just a
fun out baseball players. Yeah.
That's just a fun fact. But it's 2 outs. You're up 2-0. Maybe because you're struggling so much, you want to send a good message to your coach, make a good impression, so you lay out full extension. That was not the right play to make. He dives, ball gets past him. Now the center fielder has to run all the way into the right field corner to field that ball. Those 2 runs were earned off of Brendan Lashley, but really neither of them should have been, Right. So that's why you should have known box score scout either. Yeah, that's why you shouldn't box score scout. Because, Lashley allowed 2 runs in 7 innings, which is good as is. But really, I mean, he should have had no runs in 7 innings.
Well,
so.
It is, and because I have some friends who are major league official scorers, I hear the stories about fielders saying that I shouldn't have gotten that error or something like that. Well, would you rather have the pitcher have that count against your pitcher's ERA?
Yeah,
and then they shut up usually, or a play that gets ruled an error that wasn't ruled an error in the minors, and the answer is welcome to the big leagues, kid.
Right. Yeah.
But these are the type of plays that can't be registered as errors because you never you dive for a ball and don't get it. It's not an error.
No, of course not.
By definition,
it was the wrong.
It still looks bad.
It was the wrong decision.
Yeah, exactly.
And then of course. And then the second run scored because of whatever mental mistake Evan Fox made. I mean, he just didn't throw the ball in.
And those are definitely the type that don't get counted as errors. Mental errors are the worst.
Right, exactly. And, Drew Roberts was astute. He scored. I think we got a little off topic. The point that I'm trying to make is Stony Brook's got their I mean, I've been calling them the Sexy Six only because they both start with the same letter, but I've been calling them the Sexy Six all season long, right?
Still not catching on.
Brett, shut up. Brett Paulson, Stanton Luthner, Evan Giordano, Shane Paradine, Matt Brown-Airing, and Evan Fox, right? You got 6 proven commodities with the bat. Ryan Michelli's coming along, does something positive in every single game. Chris Leone, who I think is going to be he just looks like a ball player. He's going to be really good. He's turned his freshman season around big time. And now the pitchers, right? Into next year, we're taking Colton Book, Josh O'Neill, and improving Brandon Lashley. Maybe Ben Farrow wants to come back for a 5th year. Who knows?
That'd be big.
Right? And then JT Rad's going to come back, and eventually Nick DeGennaro's going to come back. So,
yeah.
I mean, I think what we've really seen from Stony Brook this year, not only, a good season, 17-7 in conference, 2 games back at first place, but also a really big sign for the future when the move to the CAA becomes official.
Yeah, and the move to the CAA, as we said, Hofstra's in 3rd place, and Seawolves manhandled them. But, you take a look at the teams that are ahead of Hofstra and CAA. You see James Madison and Charleston, and College of Charleston. They are repeated at-large NCAA bids. I mean, CAA sends more than one team to the NCAA more often than not, and Charleston's always there. Yeah. So that tells you something right there. And the facility they play in, just go to their website. And yes, I have said this, and I will continue to say it on these airways to anybody over in the athletic department who will listen. Joe Nathan Field needs an upgrade desperately just to compete in the CAA.
I think Matt Sank will have his team ready, even if we don't have lights. And
he always does. Every time we upgrade the program, he's upgraded the team. He'll have it. But it's about time that program got rewarded. But it's also going to be across the board. Okay, the CAA is a higher level of competition because you're going into a region that takes college football a lot more seriously than they do up here. Okay, of course, they've been in the CAA. We've already got a sample of it. The basketball is going to be more intense, and all the other sports are going to be that much more intense. I do believe that, as presently constituted, most of our programs can compete, and some I think are among the best, like women's lacrosse.
Right, or softball.
Yeah, but it's not going to be easy, and you're also going to be recruiting against a school like College of Charleston that has a beautiful baseball facility and plays down south. And, this is not going to be some, tune-up trip in March to get the guys some warm weather exposure and some at-bats and stuff like that. That's going to be your regular conference schedule.
Yeah. No,
playing those teams.
You're absolutely right. But you know what, though? Matt Sank has been battling, for whatever popular Albany and Binghamton. He's been fighting the other northeastern schools for quite a while, and he's won a lot of those battles. So I think recruiting, I think maybe for some teams, men's basketball, I think they might have a lot more difficulty bringing in players, but the established teams, the year-to-year contenders like baseball, softball, both lacrosse teams, I think they're gonna adjust to the CAA just fine. They might even hit the ground running. So
I thought that this was like a wonderful year for, in a weird way, it takes to not being able to make the tournament, the NCAA tournament, not playing in the America East tournament, almost takes the pressure off some of these young guys. And they get an opportunity to get themselves right and get themselves, for the real young guys, for the freshmen, it's like, all right, we're playing college baseball. Whoa, but like, it's just,
I mean, they're playing with house money, and
it's almost like a scrimmage year in a way. Right?
Yeah, I wouldn't demote it to scrimmage because they maintain a real intensity, which is what makes a great program a great program. I mean, if you were next to the Stony Brook dugout today, I mean, Matt Sank came out, fought with an umpire. They're chirping. Well, they weren't chirping disrespectfully, but they were chirping. Giving it back to UMBC, who deserved it because for whatever reason, UMBC started getting a little antsy today, verbally antsy. They haven't won a game at Joe Nathan Field since April 21st, 2018. I don't know what they were thinking, but they started getting a little out of their lane. Stony Brook shut them right up. I wouldn't quite call it a scrimmage, but I get what you're saying, Greg. I mean, ultimately the games don't count.
Well, they do and they don't, right? But
it takes for pride, for records, they count
for jobs next year.
Right, exactly. For roles next year, right. And again, that goes back to Colton Book, Josh O'Neill, Ryan Michelli. These guys have secured roles for next year. Who knows what extent, but...
And it's funny because they're talking about women's lacrosse, and this is a year where they're going all in. You see how many seniors and grads they have in the team. Goaltending, obviously, you got two graduates who likely aren't going to be there next year. One of them definitely won't gamble. But for his baseball team, it's the opposite, where, they're definitely seniors and grads, a couple. But for a lot of the team, I'm looking at pitching mostly. There's a lot of young arms there who are going to be there for the next season, 2 to 3, or however long. And Greg, I'm sure as a coach, obviously, you love seeing that, just that development. And maybe you can even attest to that, where when that pressure is not there, just the difference in how the players are able to develop.
Yeah, but also I think this too, like it's a long. I mean, they play so many games in baseball, right? There's so many games. There's so much travel. There's so much going on.
And down south, they play even more.
Yeah. So
23 and 22 so far.
Yeah. So and they still have 2 series left.
Remember the 2012
extra
team
game.
had 50 wins.
Right.
Just wins.
52.
Yeah.
52 and 15.
But
that's also because they count they don't have a regular season and a postseason. They count the
but
postseason.
That's in college. That's the case in every sport.
Right. Yeah.
Now, Matt, I do agree with you though. As far as the there needs to be a facility upgrade for both the softball and the baseball field.
How fast can they get it done? I don't know, but it's got to be in the plans.
It has to be done because if you're going to compete in the CAA, and because what's going to happen is you're going to be going against the same teams trying to get the same players because you're playing the same level of competition.
Exactly.
Right? And who's got the better facility? Now, I'm going to say
just about everybody else in the league.
Right. But I'm going to say Stony Brook's going to have in a number of the cases, Stony Brook's going to be the better school. Right, academically, right?
Well, better school academically, and of course, if as a player, if baseball were a major, Matt Senk would be,
yes,
double super senior professor of it. He'd have a PhD in it. I mean,
yeah, he's the dean. He's the dean of coaching.
He definitely is, and this is coming not just from his players who have made the majors. I mean, you just watch what his players do. I mean, they think for themselves. They pull double steals. They go to the right base. They do things right. Yes, they have lapses there in college. They lay down. Everybody can lay down a bunt. Everybody is a threat to steal because they know how. They know how to get a jump on somebody. They know how to force a catcher to throw a ball in the center field. They know these things, and they're taught these things. Right. And the Minnesota Twins teaches these things, and under GM Terry Ryan and when Gardenhire was managing, they still do, because they realize that there's a lot of great athletic ability and natural talent out there, but baseball smarts can beat that.
Oh, yeah.
And which is why the Twins are consistently, they have their up and down years, but they're consistently there in the American League Central.
Yeah, well, that goes back to being fundamentally sound, because when you are fundamentally sound, you can take advantage of the other team's miscues, right? Like,
exactly.
That's done it so many times this season.
Right, and how did Stony Brook softball win that double no-hitter? UMBC made 2 mistakes, and Stony Brook took care. They took advantage of both of them.
And Andy Hawkins no hitter on their side. The run scoring on errors, but neither team got a hit. Now it probably has happened before in softball. I can't ever think of it happening in baseball. That would have made one of the Hall of Shame books easily, but the Andy Hawkins no-hitter, of course, made history because that was the bottom out point for that Yankee team in 1990 and the Yankee franchise in general, because what more could have gone wrong for a team that finished in last place? Of course, it was uphill from there, and of course, they haven't had a losing season in 30 years, but that's beside the point. By the way, we're a little bit past the top of the hour, WUSB Stony Brook. But anyway, sports section, Matt Mankiewicz, Ken Furman, Mike Anderson, Greg Taylor, Matt Kearns joining us and just sticking around and observing for now. But the whole point remains is that philosophy on baseball will always carry you through, no matter what level you play at. Because, yes, you get more talented players, but when the talented players become smarter players, and they do grow under Matt's sake, we watch it over the course of this season alone. Mark of a good coach. Really, the players get better.
Yeah, really. That's been basically your point the entire time as you're talking about your sexy 6 here.
Thank you, Greg.
Right,
and they're growing into the Elite 8 or the or the Magnificent 7 or the
Magnificent starts with an M.
Yes, but the Magnificent 7 is a movie.
Yeah, he likes the alliteration.
Yeah, but I like pop culture's
that's a better reference.
The Magnificent 7.
All right, Ken, why don't you hit the leave call button?
How about the Fierce 5 for gymnastics, right?
Yeah.
But
what I wanted to take a look at though, because Mike, you had said this earlier, and I think you were right. In order for Stony Brook, and Matt, you were bringing this up as well, too, you want to win that regular season conference. That still can be something that you can play for. I pulled up Maine's schedule for their conference schedule the rest of the way. They play Merrimack on Tuesday.
Right.
Then they got non-conference. But then they go 3 games against Albany. So next weekend is Albany. And then they go Hartford to finish off.
Boston College in between, an ACC school.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting, though, Matt. You go against Boston College. I mean, you go in Boston College ACC. Before you play Hartford, you trot out your number ones?
Run the freshmen out there like Saint did with Manhattan a few weeks back.
Well, I don't know. I guess it all depends on how
College?
Well, you know what?
Depends.
Go ahead.
Go. No, you go ahead.
No, one reason why I thought about that is because the same reason Saint did against Manhattan. He wanted to see what he had running people out there who hadn't gotten a lot of action.
Right. And most of them delivered with the bats, Yeah. So,
and a couple of pitchers did too. He found out he had something in his arsenal he didn't have before.
Right.
Now,
exactly.
your main, okay, it's number one, highly likely that you've already clinched a playoff spot. Highly likely you're going to win because you are the best team out there that is in Stony Brook.
Right.
Okay.
And a multi-game lead, always comfortable.
But even better yet, okay, you're going into a double elimination tournament, and then if you get out of that one, yet another double elimination tournament, you get out of that one, so on and so forth. So you're going to be digging deep. Your top 3 is no longer enough. You may have to go 4 or 5 games.
That's true.
So you have to know what kind of depth you have.
They're a program that has done it before, too. I mean, we when I first came back, it was the week of the Binghamton series. Matt, you had said that aside from a couple of anomalies here and there, the America East has run through Stony Brook, and sometimes Binghamton takes the baton, and when it's not Binghamton, it's Maine. Maine has gone to the NCAA a couple times. Maine,
it's basically
before joining the America
East.
Right, before joining the America East, Maine went to a College World Series.
Yep.
They've got right now in the major leagues, Jeremy Pena is the starting shortstop for the Houston Astros. They're not a program to laugh at,
Never have been.
No, and even last year, their ace pitcher got drafted, I believe, by the San Francisco Giants. So they're a good program. They're an underrated program, and they're someone we should respect because they're not exactly, they're not Jersey Tech.
Well,
they're not acting out of their lane.
The rivalry
and stuff like that.
is not. I mean, there's no chippiness between these two programs.
No, there's no rivalry. I mean, that would just be the way to put it. But
it's an athletic rivalry, not necessarily a personal one. I think with NJIT, it's become a bit personal.
Yeah, it's more so a hatred. I mean, Chris Hamilton. Sometimes we as reporters will ask a question that kind of pushes the envelope, and then we'll get a diplomatic answer. Chris Hamilton didn't care. I asked him, like, do you hate Jersey Tech? And he was like, yeah, I do. Why bother denying it? We know, So I asked Johnny Tuchillo how he feels about Jersey Tech. I'm sure you'll get a more animated answer from him. But yeah. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is Maine, another fundamentally sound organization and program. Greg, the schedule you just highlighted, you probably heard me kind of like cringing, man. Albany and Hartford, that could be 6 wins.
I think so too. Hartford's a sweep to me for sure.
Hartford's a sweep, but Hartford has played a little bit better of late. It's take it with a grain of salt. They set the bar so low, but they've played a little more competitively of late. It's Albany who's just. And I called them a perennial disappointment when I first rejoined the show. I'm doubling down on that now. They're definitely. Binghamton has not just overlapped them; they've overlapped and ran away from them. I think Albany is 8-16, or 9-15.
9-15, yeah.
9-15 in conference play. This is a team that was projected to finish, I think it was 3rd in the America East. They were 11-6 in non-conference games. They played a ranked Georgia team competitively, very competitively, 3 straight days in a row. At one point, they had like 5 300 hitters and 7 guys over 250, 6 guys over 270. And this team they're going to miss the playoffs.
Yeah, they're projected to finish 4th, and obviously with Stony Brook Allendale, that puts them up to 3rd. And as you said, they're going to miss the playoffs. That's insane. They're projected to go dead last.
Well,
actually
remember
Albany at this point.
The top 6 go.
I thought that was just a COVID. I thought that was just a 2021.
No, according to this, according to what I'm looking at right now, it is still 6 teams.
All right, then. Okay, so they're going to make the playoffs, but
it will be hosted by Maine anyway. Right. Although they probably will have earned it. Let's say, for example, the first day, Wednesday, May 25th, it's a 4-5, the 3-6, and the losers playing game 3. So, yeah, it's going to be, and of course, the number 1 and the 2 get buys.
Mm-hmm.
So,
sure.
Yeah, so that's become,
Maine,
right? I guess, more permanent, at least this year.
There's I would assume each team only has 6 games left in conference.
Yeah.
Then nobody else can catch up to Maine. Stony Brook's not playing.
Stony Brook can catch up to Maine, but Albany is going to have to do something they haven't done in I don't know how long, but that would be to win a must-win series.
Yeah. No, but I mean, Stony Brook
Maine.
Could, but nobody's going to catch Maine. That's going to be playing in the American League.
Stony Brook has to outwin. Stony Brook has to outwin Maine by 2. I know that's not a word, but I'm making it one. They have to win 2 more games than.
If Stony Brook runs the table and Maine takes 2 out of 3 in the next 2 series, Stony Brook will get the tiebreaker. Yeah.
Right, and running the table is not likely. I mean, Binghamton and Jersey Tech. They're not great teams, but they are respectable teams. They are winning teams.
Conference play.
In conference play, that is, yeah. So, and also, they are both rivalry teams for 2 different reasons. Obviously, Binghamton, it's a respect and location thing. Jersey Tech, it's a I don't like you, you don't like me thing.
Right.
So, you're going to get the best out of both teams.
Why did they celebrate in the parking lot? That's what I'm still trying to figure out.
Well, because they won the championship, Ken. Don't you remember?
I mean, it's
no, this is regular season.
Couldn't wait till you get in the bus.
This regular
season. Remember they won a game that they were losing?
Yeah.
So, and by the way, Chris Hamilton was there today. Chris Hamilton and Brian Herman were both there today. Brian Herman was being very funny. Getting on the umpire, cheering on his teammates. A lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
So, yeah.
Baseball's been fun to watch, but I think softball, too, is getting ready to transition to them. They've wrapped up their season in a losing sense, but a pretty good season overall, I think.
Yeah, no, heartbreaking way to go out. I mean, you never want to see something end like that, and especially, we watched Dawn Bodrig's Stony Brook career end. That's not the way you want to see it. Luckily, she did break the single season strikeout record. So congratulations to Dawn Bodrig, the new strikeout queen of Stony Brook softball. Yeah. And she deserves it. I couldn't think of anyone better to own that record than her. But definitely not the way we wanted it to end. Obviously, Ken,
losses, yeah.
Right. And you had highlighted, Ken, last week or 2 weeks ago that it was very possible that Stony Brook drops 2 out of 3 to UMass Lowell, because Lowell does have a good softball program. And I mean, I guess they're a little bit better than good.
I'll say Stony Brook out. To me, I wouldn't be surprised if UMass Lowell UMBC being the final, because UMass Lowell's done well, exceptionally now to close out the season here in softball action. Obviously, 2 Mercy Rule wins over Stony Brook, huge. Stony Brook winning the other game 2-0. That was when Baldwin tied the single season strikeout record. But just the record is aside, because it really don't matter. I just think the individual performances from players like Corrine Badger, who hit 16 home runs on the season.
Right, tied for 4th all time.
Yeah, right under Bria Green, Haley Durham, and Melissa Rorick, which is obviously huge, filling that role that Rorick left behind last year. Mm-hmm. But as you said, Baldrug just setting a bunch of records this season. I mean, just phenomenal stuff from that battery.
Right. And, and let's not forget Shelby, who I don't anticipate to be back next year. She can come back if she wants, but the word on the street is that she doesn't want to come back, which I understand. She's from Las Vegas. It's a long way from home. She might be sick of school. She might not be happy with how the championship was taken away from her, and how the COVID year was taken away from her. She might be, there might be some fed up stuff. She might just be tired. She might be tired of going through the rigors of being a D1 athlete, and and I can respect all of it, But
I was gonna say, her field too. Studying economics, graduating now, a lot of job opportunities there for sure, and
right,
maybe has something in line there, which is big. But that kind of brings us to the next
point.
Sad
to see her go, but happy to have had her in the first place.
Exactly.
What a year she had.
9-8. Yeah, 9-8, a save, 2.75 ERA.
Yeah,
it was
right.
her
It's the ERA,
best
obviously, the
year.
247 batting average against. She was outstanding for them. You can't ask for much better than for a two starter who was a 3 for a couple of years.
Last couple of years. Yeah,
I mean, what more can you ask from Shelby? So,
exactly. And it kind of brings our next point too for softball, because again, retaining a lot of really good players, their offense will shine in the CAA, be among the best, I think. Definitely that top 4, no question. But it's going to be the pitching and what becomes of them. Ashton Milas likely going to move up to the number 1, the ace role, and following her potentially.
Potentially, right. I mean, if the season started tomorrow, she'd be starting opening day. We don't know what Megan Bryant has in store. They could be scouting JUCO pitchers. They could have somebody on the roster who is a complete and utter secret to us.
And that's interesting too. Looking at the roster right now, because looking at the commits, there's no pitchers so far who are in line to come in. But Stony Brook does employ 2 other pitchers, Amanda Flynn and Maddie Mayle. Neither of them have pitched in the circle for Stony Brook yet. So they'll likely be making, to me, I think that's going to be the trio for next year. And
I don't know.
Unless they find someone to, replace Maddie Mayle, but we haven't seen what either of those 2 have done yet.
Right, exactly. But that's why I don't know. I mean, we would have seen them by now. I think we probably would have seen them by now. If Megan Bryant thought that they were ready to compete, we would have seen them by now. And
but I think there's such a huge jump between your freshman and sophomore year. Obviously, Amanda Flynn going from sophomore and junior year, but you get to watch somebody like Budrow every single day, and I think that can have a big impact. I think we downplay the ability to emulate and then change your game and work from there, especially if they were good teammates and were sharing. Right. If Dawn was good with the other. And if they share, do you know what I'm saying? If
I get what you mean.
Tips,
So you don't know, especially for Maddie, from I think freshman to sophomore year, I think it's a huge jump, and just even like the social aspects, like you saying, Shelby might be leaving after the end of this year. Listen, life goes on,
right?
It's time to get a job, time to work, time to, so it's so we don't do that enough with our athletes in general as a whole in America. Like, why doesn't this guy want to get traded? Why doesn't he want to go over here? Well, maybe he likes living in LA.
Right. His kids go to school there.
Right. Yes. Exactly. The girl that he really, really likes lives in LA.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why he doesn't want to go.
Right. He doesn't want to up and leave. He doesn't want to uproot his family to move to Cleveland. He didn't want to do that anyway. Now he has to do that mid-season. It's fair.
Well, trade deadlines in every sport. The locker rooms get really, really nervous because of that very reason. I mean, it's not even about, whether you can go to a better team. Even on bad teams, people don't necessarily want to leave. Now, of course, there are opportunities where, you tell a guy, hey, we're trading you to a contender so you can get your ring late in your career, like Ray Burke with Colorado. Got traded from Boston to Colorado because Boston wasn't going anywhere. Colorado won the Cup that year. So we're talking 20 years ago, but still, same idea. But the whole point there, Cecil Fielder, who was languishing in Detroit, gets traded to the Yankees. He wins a ring.
Mm-hmm.
So
the point is, this team showed us a lot this year, and we're going to get, if there's one thing that I would put my money on, and, to put your money on women's lacrosse is cheating. So I'd put my money on the softball team to make the most smooth jump to the CAA next year. I was really impressed with what I saw this year. It's
the beauty of it is they get so many people back.
Right, exactly. To lose the names that they lost and to still do as well, if not better.
Well, this was their transition year.
Everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they end up clinching the regular season championship. Now, here's the next big question. We can ask Megan Bryant this when we get a chance. Somebody can walk around in the hallway or something like that. Do they add this year to their conference championship list? I think they have to, because they did win the outright top seed and the regular season conference championship outright. They beat Albany 2 out of 3 in their last homestand, and they, as a result, have, even though they finished tied at 10-6, they had the tiebreaker. So first place, and you take a look at the American East standings, softball standings, final standings, they're in first. So, exactly. Despite losing 2 in a row in the last 2 games of the season, doesn't matter. They won.
Right. And let's highlight all the losses, too. So, obviously, we said Dawn Bodrig, definitely gone. Shelby Denman, likely gone. Corin Badger, definitely gone. And a fourth one, who I was unsure of, because she's a fourth-year senior, not a fifth-year senior. But I saw on Instagram, first baseman and DH, I guess they call it DP, designated player in softball. But first baseman Lindsay Osmer commented on Dawn Bodrig's account saying, "Nobody I'd rather end my career with." So I could read between the lines there, although really there's no in between the lines reading to do there.
Yeah, that's pretty much straight out there. Yeah,
right. Yeah,
she's telling you what she's doing. Yeah.
That's as self-explanatory as it gets. So obviously, that's 4 big holes to fill.
I think you mean McCarville for Badger, because Badger's junior.
McCarville's gone too. Yeah. McCarville's a fifth-year senior
for what it looks like.
Badger was a 2-year. No, hold on a second. My editor told me Corin Badger was a 2-year JUCO product first.
Yeah, but
I lied to?
No, but 1 year in the JUCO, if you played, it didn't count. It wasn't a year of eligibility during the pandemic. So in order,
but she was here during the pandemic. I thought she was 2018 and 19, and then 2021, 22.
On the website, she lists as a junior, and there haven't been any social media indication she's gone. So,
yeah, they do have her as a junior.
Yeah, that's the big thing too, right? Because I think obviously on pitching wise, big loss, but we've seen obviously in the past, very recent past, that they've been able to fill that. But losing Badger, would be a huge loss offensively, because she filled that hole.
Now I don't know. Now I have no clue.
Yeah, no, all indications so far seems to be she's coming back. We'll wait and see. But obviously, this softball team, though, even with those moves, getting a lot of great young products, definitely for next year. Even if they don't go all the way, there's still, again, a lot of names to look forward to. Kyra McFarland, a sophomore infielder. Alicia Orozco as well, another sophomore as well. Alyssa Costello, a true freshman coming in, played infield and outfield, doing everything, really.
Did she play the infields? I think she only played right field this year, but she is listed on the website as an infielder, outfielder. She led the team in batting average, slugged .578. At one point, she was leading the nation in batting average for freshmen. Yeah. She doesn't really walk much. She's not very patient. So I think that might be something that she's got to work on. But she really had an unreal freshman year, and she might be the. Look, I love Corin Badger. I think Alyssa Costello might be the star player for the next couple of years for the Stony Brook team. And then, of course, Kira McFarland, all rookie as a freshman, and she took that next step this year, batted over 300, on base almost 37% of the time, improved defensively, leaps and bounds. She struggled at second base last year. This year, played an unreal shortstop. Stole some bags too on offense. Had some really big hits. Obviously, the game-winning 2-run double against Albany. Alicia Orozco didn't play much as a freshman this year. Great for them out of the leadoff spot. Great for them in center field. Catherine Ann Kopinski, sophomore, didn't play much as a freshman. Third on the team in RBIs this year. And played a reliable left field. She was another really good find by Megan Bryant. She's going to take the next step next year, I think. Sophia Chambers, somebody who played out of necessity, right? McCarville was hurt. McFarland had to move over. Sophia Chambers had to start, and she had a good year this year. She's a good player. So, and Juliana Sanzone's going to come back too. Her jaw won't be shattered next year, so she's going to be back. Ashley Jacobson will likely take over full time at first base. She hit 370 this year, so you got to feel good about that. Yeah, man. I mean, they've got quite the group coming back. If they figure out what they're going to do with pitching, if they figure out the Shelby situation, if this whole Corin Badger thing was a myth that I was spreading. That I think they're going to be in even better hands than I had previously thought.
You know what? Let's be honest. You started this off with saying, who's going to be the smoothest transition in softball.
Mm-hmm.
You could argue baseball. Obviously, lacrosse would be cheating, and I think you're 100% right about that.
Right.
But what do all three of them have? All three of them have good coaching.
I was going to say,
good coaching. Matt Sank, Coach Bryant, Coach Valina. You got good coaching. They're going to have this, and not that the other teams' programs don't have good coaching. These are the proven coaches, right?
Right.
The proven coaches.
No, yeah. These are people with Wikipedia pages.
Right. Yes. Yes.
With pedigree. I mean,
they're going to pay the big bucks in athletics for a reason.
Right. And I mean, and you could Google Matt Sank and you'll get several pages.
Hall of Fame list he's on.
Right.
In New York.
Right. And with nothing but good reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, World Series, right? No other New York team. Pretty much no other Northeastern team. But yeah, they've that's a great point. The common denominator between those three programs is they've got high quality elite coaching, which is really how you establish a program. And even the assistant coaches too. I mean, Jim Martin, the associate head coach, which is just a fancy word for assistant head coach of the baseball team. He does the scouting report, and my God, does he do it to a T? I mean, all their defensive positioning. Matt, how many balls were hit right at them today? How many balls were hit right at?
I even mentioned it on the air. I don't know if anybody heard me, but I'm sure everybody did. But you had, let's say, for example, Matt Brown Ehring playing in the gap in left center field and having a ball hit right at him. For a lefty hitter, having a ball hit right at him. You had Cole Durkin playing in the gap in right center, almost right next to Derek Yellen, and Yellen standing there while the ball's hit straight at Durkin.
Right. Yeah. And you know who that is?
Phenomenal. What they're able to do to position the outfielders.
Right, and that's Jim Martin. That's coaching.
Yeah, I said if it's Coach Sank or somebody on his staff, I've got to give immense credit to them because these guys are way out of position. Balls are getting hit straight at them.
Oh yeah, now you'll see if you take a look at the dugout during a baseball game, you'll see Jim Martin take a couple steps out onto the field between pitches, and he'll get the attention of one of the outfielders.
I've seen Sank do that too.
Over. Yeah, but probably relaying a message from Martin. But and another thing
I'm glad you brought that up because I was wondering who was responsible for it, even on the air today. And yeah, give him all the props he deserves because that's excellent coaching.
Yeah, no, I mean, and he does so much work, film study and all that stuff. And, I spoke to Shane Paradine today, who had the walk-off hit in game one. First career walk-off. He's had a lot of game-winning hits. That was the first walk-off of his career.
That's crazy.
Right, he joined the club, I mean, everyone's got one
just
now.
Wilson,
Evan,
although I have to admit, whoever did that video of Luthner, and it was, as he dropped the bat, it wasn't like he was waving it fair, but he was jumping up right down the first base line like Carlton Fisk in 1975.
That was just a great shot, though. That was just such a great video. I don't know who that was.
Yeah, that was awesome because I mean that's professional. I mean whoever, if it's a student, he's got a job. He should put that in his reel. Send it to MLB.com now.
Yeah, he or she definitely needs that. That should be linked in their LinkedIn bio or Instagram bio. Or
no, I mean seriously. I mean, I'll drop some names. Send it straight to them. Look what I can do. They'll get hired on the spot.
Absolutely. Anyways, what I was trying to say is I was talking to Shane Paradine today after his walk-off hit, and I had asked him, is it difficult to be in that big of a situation and then they bring in a new pitcher just to face you? And he had said, not really, because Coach Martin had him scouted pretty well, so we kind of knew what he was going to throw. I mean, imagine that. Right? Imagine having that at your disposal.
MLB analytics right here.
Right, and he knew he had a sinker. He knew he had a changeup. That's so much better than when I was in high school and I had to go up there guessing.
Or even the old teams of the past. I'm sure obviously 20 years ago, just data, they didn't have this much.
Well, also that they were never trained how to use it.
Exactly. And everybody hates analytics until they realize what it does for them. And I don't
look at both New York pro sports teams right now, atop the standings.
All analytics does is prove your hunches. Or disprove them to a degree too, but more often than not, it proves them.
Right. And, again, I don't like batting the best hitter 2. I don't like batting the best hitter leadoff. These are things that analytics say to do. But you know what?
I especially don't like analytics saying you have a better chance of getting hit when you hit into a shift. That is the stupidest thing I could think of.
Right there.
If you hit a ball and nobody is there to field it, it will be a hit.
Right.
Because
they say balls in the air are better. Look, if you hit the ball hard, it doesn't matter the trajectory.
Number one, that's also true. But the other thing, too, is if you got a bunch of klutzes in the infield and you hit ground balls all over the place, you're going to steal some hits. You're going to force errors. You're going to force them to throw the ball all over the place. One of the reasons why slow runners on Matt Sink's team steal bases is because they have a scout on the catcher, and if they know the catcher does not have a good motion or throws too quickly or something like that, the ball's going to wind up in center field.
Yeah, last year, the first time I ever watched Stony Brook baseball, I was doing a final project for Journalism 116. Okay, that was in the spring of 2021. The project I had pitched was the baseball team's doing much better this year than they did last year before the season was canceled. I want to cover them and see what they've been doing differently it was really just like a BS excuse so I could watch baseball. But either way, he approved it. Okay, so my first impression that they gave me was last year, 4-game series at home against UMBC, swept them. Clean, 4-0. Brett Paulson had a walk-off hit. Evan Giordano had a 2-home-run game. A couple of Sam Turcotte threw a complete game. Jared Milch was good. Kyle Johnson had a perfect 12-up, 12-down save. I got to watch some outstanding baseball last year in that series. And you know what impressed me the most? Their UMBC's catcher, Jack Ryan. I remember his name because there's also a show called Private Jack Ryan.
Yes, and there's also a series. He's the main character in Tom Clancy's books, and he's from Maryland.
Yes. So there you go. University of Maryland, Baltimore County. All comes full circle.
But Jack Ryan in Maryland. I mean, if I had called the UMBC game last year, I probably would have beaten that subject to death.
Well, the games are a little too exciting.
And of course, Jack Ryan is a TV series on was it Netflix?
Yeah.
John Krasinski playing Jack Ryan, who was also played by Alec Baldwin, who was also played by Harrison Ford.
Anyways,
hey, this is what you have to do to kill time in a baseball game.
Yeah,
right. But those games are so exciting. I don't think they gave you enough downtime. Anyway, Jack Ryan had just a terrible series because that whole weekend, Saturday, Sunday, morning, afternoon, didn't matter which game it was, man. Sank was just, hey, swipe this bag, giving them the steal sign no matter what, double steals. If they had a situation, they probably would have tried a triple steal. Jack Ryan kept throwing the ball into center field, kept throwing the ball down the left field line, short hop in his throws. They saw something in his delivery that they liked. Maybe he had a twinge, maybe he had the yips, whatever it was, they took full advantage of it. And they did that again today. It's not Jack Ryan anymore. I'm pretty sure he transferred down a division. But whoever it was behind home plate, it might have been 2 different catchers. It was painful for them too. I think UMBC doesn't ever want to face. I think they're glad they don't ever have to face Stony Brook ever again.
Yeah, I don't expect them to see much action head-to-head non-conference. That's for sure.
No, I'm not sure if Stony Brook will ever play another America East team because it is up to the people in Stony Brook athletics to.
It'd be a shame because I think there's some good rivalries there and close enough games.
Maine, Binghamton, Albany should always be consideration. They can't get them every year, okay, but.
They should, but I don't know. Again, because I spoke to Sank about that after they took 2 of 3 from Albany, and he had said, it's up to the people, at the top of Stony Brook athletics to schedule things with.
That's a real tough call too for Sean Helbron.
To a degree, yes, okay, but the coaches themselves, not conference schedules, are left at the discretion of the coaches for the most part.
I wonder.
There may be some deals that may be made higher up, but not many.
Right. Well, I mean, remember Joe Spallina coming on this show and saying that he wanted his girls, the women's soccer team, to all face top tier teams to get them ready for the regular season.
Well, and he was the one who made that clear, and he set it up. But the other thing I think also, I mean, again, no one's going to admit it, but when Joe Spallina's son is a top prospect at going to Syracuse, and all of a sudden we start playing Syracuse, I don't think that's a coincidence.
Are you saying there's a soccer conspiracy you've uncovered a conspiracy here?
Well, I think.
Oh, it's a friendly conspiracy. We get to play Syracuse, which we had never done before, not even postseason. And the only time we ever played Hopkins was in the NCAA tournament. The last time men's lacrosse was in it.
I think
way back in 2012.
I think Matt Sank's telling you that they're not playing any America East schools.
Yeah.
Maybe
I think
he doesn't want to.
As much as the last one was not reading between the lines, this might have been reading between the lines and telling you it's going to be a while before we
saying the hell with these guys.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, right? Because it all runs through Sean Helbron. If he doesn't have final say, he sure as heck has as close to the final say as you can on it, right? But he's again someone who represented the American East the last almost decade in NCAA fairs when COVID first went down. He was the guy that they went through. He was the guy in charge of relegating the American East and going to all those big conferences for the NCAA. So obviously, just the treatment of how Stony Brook was treated this semester, and obviously, with the rulings being made, I gotta imagine it kind of shows there that they're taking it personally, and obviously, I think many could argue rightly so. And it's going to be a few years for sure, at the very least, until we probably see American East opponents facing off against Stony Brook again. But I think another thing too is just that Stony Brook's obviously branching out different conference. So maybe now's the time where you look for different opponents and try to see, all right, how far can we stretch this out? Because you're going to be playing more conference opponents and more so opponents who are farther away from you, more in the middle, more in middle of the country, obviously. So or you keep going down south as well. Maybe you look to play more teams in like Florida. Yeah.
The only thing I'll say to that, though, Ken, and this is where I'm going to disagree with you. You are changing and going into a completely different conference. I think you'd like to play a couple teams that you've been playing on a regular basis.
I don't know. I mean,
I do, because I think you have that opportunity. Listen, scouting is work. Preparation is work.
That is true.
And getting a feel for the CAA is going to be work. It's not going to be an easy thing to do. In particular, like you guys kind of just going off on Coach Martin for the baseball team. Listen, he's been pulling these things out of his bag of tricks here. He's got to get a bigger bag here.
More so than all of us. What is the scouting like, from that coaching perspective?
Yeah.
Well, if it's
it might be different based on
I just mean generally, because obviously it's more than an hour or two of work. Obviously, you're looking at players individually.
I mean, it's the whole week. I mean,
right.
Well, here's what I'm going to say. The majority of the time is spent recruiting.
Right.
So the majority of the things that you're going to be doing is recruiting. So I think for everything that you do, no matter what you're doing. So say you're setting up a practice plan, then you do a recruit thing. Then you do, so anything that you're doing for the team, if you do 10 things for the team, you do 10 things for recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think that's how you kind of they may not say it, but that's kind of how you bounce up. Now it's not all at once, but I think that's kind of where it's going to go. But I'll say the day-to-day grind to be able to go into your playbook and say, okay, when we played Hofstra, not Hofstra is a bad example because they're in the CAA, but when we play Albany, they like to do this. This is what the coach likes to do. And you have that just knowledge of playing them year in and year out. You don't have to like go into research mode on them. You don't have to make phone calls. You don't have to, ask, a non-conference opponent that they played what they thought.
I get what you're
already have
saying.
that
Though
information.
Stony Brook is definitely going to miss UMass Lowell and Hartford in most
Yeah.
sports because those were essentially 2 easy wins a season in virtually every sport.
Right. Well, I mean, come on, you think the baseball team's not going to miss UMBC? They're 67 and 18 against them.
Yeah.
Just in my time alone here, they're 11-2 against them.
As a UMass Lowell couldn't buy a win in baseball. They lead for so long and always find a way to blow it.
But you know what? You know what? Let's give UMass Lowell their respect. They're over 500 since Stony Brook swept them.
Yeah, they've impressed me for sure.
Well, for baseball now, Coach Sank and Matt, we've talked about this plenty of times. Coach Sank goes real hard non-conference and then goes into the conference. And if this is what he does and this is what he thinks is best for the program, then he's going to go real hard non-conference he did this year. And then we go into the CAA and away it goes. It's different in baseball because of the series. Right. And softball with the series as well too, because your non-conference game is midweek and it's more local. It's more of a localized thing. Yeah. But I think for the other sports, men's and women's lacrosse, men's and women's soccer, basketball, they lend themselves easier to playing non-conference games.
Yeah.
However, okay, you take a look at the baseball teams in the CAA. And just look at the current standings. I mean, take a look at the records, their overall records, not even talking about their conference records. I mean, Towson's won 16-10, 36. They're obviously the bottom. Delaware's lost 7 straight, and they're still at 500 overall.
Yeah.
Okay. Elon's at 7-10. They're 500 overall. William & Mary is 2 under 500. Northeastern is over 500. UNC Wilmington's over 500. Hofstra, we just blasted them, and they're over 500. James Madison's 26-20, and Charleston's 31-15. Okay, you're running into a buzzsaw there because, I mean, I'll just randomly open up William & Mary, for example. Okay, and CAAsports.com is the central website for the CAA, and I'm just looking at who they play non-conference. Rhode Island, they swept.
Rhode Island's not good, though.
Yeah, Rhode Island's not good. They were supposed to play Maine, but it was canceled. Got shut out by Virginia. Got shut out 1-0 by Rutgers. Destroyed Lafayette. Beat Princeton. Got swept by Georgia Southern, which is a team that Stony Brook has played in the past. Got swept in 2 games by Davidson. Swept George Mason. And Mason used to be in the CAA. They've since moved on. They beat Duke. They took 2 out of 3 from UNC Wilmington, but that's in conference. But you get the idea that it's a step up, okay?
Oh, yeah.
And their non-conference schedule is just as tough as Stony Brook's, but they have more success, and that's a big-packed team.
I have it right here. The non-conference records for this year: America East teams went 54-94. That's a 364 percentage. CAA teams went 120 and 118. It's 504.
Damn good. And that's top to bottom.
500.
Yeah, and Stony Brook, this year they were 6-15 in non-conference games. I think they probably get this one last win. Sacred Heart, who beat them earlier this year. Sacred Heart's not very good. That was a different Stony Brook team at the time. They were still without Matt Sank, if you'll remember. So I think that Stony Brook probably ends 7-15 non-conference. Matt Sank's not happy about that, but whatever. Remember, this is also a half rebuild. He's trying to figure out who he's got, and he's got some answers. So
and doing it without the star pitcher, the gem of the staff, right? So, but I also just remember this. We talked about it, Matt. It's just Mike. It's just starting to get warm now. That's why some of maybe the pitchers are getting a little better. Yeah, they're going into a conference where it's going to be warm the entire season.
Mm-hmm. Most of it, yeah. I mean, the farthest up north they're going to go is Connecticut. Yeah. So, they are going to have to play games on Long Island. I guess not going to catch any breaks there.
But they're going to be in North Carolina. They're going to be in South Carolina. No, they do actually. Northeastern is in Boston. So, that is further north. Northeastern, of course, their entire campus is at the location of the Huntington Avenue baseball grounds, which was the site of the first World Series. And there's a statue of Cy Young right there.
Oh, wow.
Some baseball history for you.
Yeah. We can wrap up with baseball, too. We got 10 minutes left in the show.
But But they go down to Charleston, James Madison, Old Dominion, VCU, Hofstra's on Long Island, Delaware. Okay, it gets warmer quicker down there. Okay, well, they go down to where the Masters is, tradition unlike any other. But College of Charleston, that is one place I'd love to travel to because that's near Patriots Point, and that's near Myrtle Beach, and Charleston, South Carolina is a great place to visit. I mean, if we do get to travel, and depending on who you ask in the athletic department, they may want to get the radio station to travel. We will. I think it'd be a great trip down there. Of course, the only problem is we've got conflicts with men's and women's lacrosse. So, usually when baseball's on the road, softball's at home, and vice versa. So maybe we do it, maybe we don't. But in the tournament, we just might. Who knows where next year's tournament's going to be held? But yes, we do have 10 minutes left, and the New York Yankees split a doubleheader today. And so did the Mets. Against the Philadelphia Phillies in Philly, and the Yankees against the Texas Rangers. And both are, again, I see it on social media among my friends. I got this one guy who's constantly repeating, I will not worry about the Mets until August. I will not worry about the Mets until August. I will not worry about the Mets until August. And there's one thing I have to say to him is, enjoy them now.
Lord knows I am. First team to 20 wins in MLB.
Enjoy them now. If they go on a 5-game losing streak, then you can start worrying. But enjoy them while they're playing great ball. Because, we talk about the Islanders in hockey going on a 10-game losing streak that ruined their season. I'm not saying a 10-game losing streak necessarily ruins an MLB season. It comes damn close. But a start like this definitely puts you in good position towards the end of the year. When you're 10 over now, and you play 500 the rest of the year, you're probably not going to make the playoffs. But if you play 10 over the rest of the year, you probably will.
Right, which is mediocre over, whatever, the 30 games in. So that would be a 132-game stretch. Yeah, that would be mediocre. So mediocre gets you to the playoffs. I'm not saying settle for mediocre, but
it gives you a cushion.
Right, exactly.
Barring injuries and things like that.
Yes, and mind you, last year's Mets, they were 35-25, 60 games in, right? That's on pace for 91 wins, I believe. So, they've squandered the opportunity before
many times. They've had good records at the All-Star break many times and finished under 500.
Yes, I'm okay. Stop. I know. I've lived it.
They won't let us enjoy it, man. See, that's tough to enjoy.
Yeah. Well, people were happy at the All-Star break,
and it's realistic, and we do have to. Ken, I worry about you and your mental sanity when it comes to the Mets because I think
worry too.
Everybody.
He's the first one to worry about it.
Cincinnati Reds fans are the ones who have to worry. I mean,
hey, dude, they're 2-1 in their last 3 games. I mean, that's on pace to go 108-54 if you don't count the first 25 games.
Now that is a team that very likely dug themselves too deep a hole.
Yeah,
they're pretty much dead. Their season's
like
pretty much dead.
They want to get rid of the team at this point.
Yeah, I mean,
incredible. They can still own a team.
Pretty sure their general manager said that the fans are going to get the baseball team that they've come to see. Something like that. He's upset that nobody comes to watch them
because they suck.
Right.
It's the old Wilpon strategy.
No, the Wilpon strategy.
There is only one team in baseball that fills the building, good or bad. That's the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, right. It's all or nothing. And why not, right? I mean, it's either get a high draft pick or win a World Series.
Now, maybe, look, when the Red Sox finished in last place in 2012 under Bobby Valentine, that disastrous year, I think they still filled the park. But they kind of bracketed it with World Championships. So
right, yes, right, and you spend all that money on Carl Crawford and Adrian Gonzalez. I'm going to pay to come see them play. But
and besides which, those tickets were always probably bought years in advance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
People are buying those tickets on with the expectation of being on vacation to come up and go to Fenway Park, right?
Right. Yeah, which is why that's not always a good investment,
especially now because they're last in the AL East. But back to the Mets. It's good. They're playing what they're worth. Obviously, they have. I think now they're back because they got rid of Cano, which thank God. So
they released him officially.
$42 million wiped out. Thankfully, he was a
black. Well, it's not wiped out. They have to pay it. Baseball contracts are fully guaranteed. But the nice thing is that the Mets are finally at a point in their franchise where it's like, 42. What? Wait, how much do I have to pay you to not be here? Okay, right. Reach into your ashtray and grab $42 million.
Exactly.
It's a nice place to be. I don't like it that the Mets have reverted to the old school Yankees method of just,
It's not limited to the Yankees anymore, though.
I know the Dodgers
do
have
it.
actually
The Red Sox
Giants have been doing it.
Yeah. I mean, you run down the list.
But the Giants will home grow most of their talents and then buy the last piece. The Mets, I can't say, unlike Mets teams of recent memory, this Mets team is not fully homegrown. It's more so 50% homegrown. I don't really like that. Having said that, you're never going to hear me complain that my team is 20-10.
Exactly, right.
Did you see Peter Alonso's home run today, though?
Oh,
which one?
Which one?
Right?
Yeah, but you're right. Which one? But I mean, he just turned and it was like he swung and it was gone. You knew it. Was like you don't even have to pan the camera to the outfield. I already know it's a home run.
Yeah. No, I mean, the funniest thing is watching an outfielder's reaction on those. I mean,
they look up and don't move.
Some of them don't. Some of them don't do it because what's the point? When we played Albany, game 1, we beat them 12-3. Stanton Luthner leading off the 7th inning. I mean, he hit such a no-doubter to left field that John Daly, their left fielder, didn't actually move a muscle in his body.
That's right. I saw that.
Why would you do that? Game. Why would you even? What's the point?
However, the opposite has occurred because today, a ball that was hit pretty hard, but again, out in left field, Matt Brown Airing barely makes a move, and I'm thinking, where'd it go? And they couldn't have gone out, lands in his glove.
Right.
Because how funny was it? Move. He did it because it perfectly hit right at him.
How funny was it on Wednesday when Matt Brown Airing took that 90-mile-per-hour throwing lefty to, deep to dead center field, and the center fielder thought it was a routine fly ball because he couldn't see it in the sun.
And it just kept going.
Right, and it winds up clearing the center field.
That I've seen happen in center field at Joe Nathan Field a lot, where the center fielder, sometimes it's even Cole Durkin, who he goes back to the wall and just watches it go, thinking he has a shot at it, just keeps on going.
Well, that's why they have the warning track there to let you know, hey, you're running out of room. This ball might be gone. So my first ever home run when I was 11, the center fielder tripped and fell.
Oof.
All for nothing.
Yep.
All for nothing. So
it's funny because it's kind of like the porch in Yankee Stadium where Rizzo, he's been on fire, and a lot of that is just porch shots where he's getting it just over the short porch and it's going out.
A home run is a home run.
Amen.
Is a home run.
Amen.
They all count the same way, man.
That's right.
Yes.
Right. I mean,
except when it's ruled a triple.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Because the relay man doesn't throw the ball in. But yeah.
But back to the Yankees, though, they're known as a home run team, but they've been doing it, I think, just everywhere. Pitching's been phenomenal. They held the Blue Jays to 7 runs, something like that, in the first 7 games, something like that.
No,
a little more than that.
I think it's 14 and 7.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, there you go.
That's not a lot. That's
exactly holding it to 2 a game. It's great for the lineup the Blue Jays have.
Right, and again, I think the Blue Jays are the best team in the American League, so I think eventually we'll see it normalize. I think the Yankees are going to be they're going to have a great year this year. I'm fully convinced.
19-8, right? The Mets.
We're 19-8 right now. I'm not too invested in them right now. They're 19-8. They'll hit a slump. The Mets will hit a slump. It's baseball. It's 162 games. They're going to come back to earth at one point. But this Yankees team will probably win somewhere between 93 to 96 games. Yeah. They'll be right there till the end with Tampa Bay and Toronto. Their ceiling's a lot higher than last year's team was.
Absolutely.
Because last year's team, very strong bullpen, rotation pretty weak after Montgomery. This year there really isn't a weakness in that pitching staff, and then their offense is a little better than opportunistic. They are still they can't run the bases. The unassisted double play by the first baseman today, that made me want to throw paint thinner in the runner's face. I mean, that angered me because that should never happen.
No,
the first baseman shouldn't be more nimble than you.
Okay,
but hey,
whatever.
Addition by subtraction. No more Gary Sanchez.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
11:59, 16 seconds, guys, which means that we have to, call it a night. But before we do, we have to remind our listeners when we are on next with WUSB Sports, and that will be Women's Lacrosse NCAA tournament time, May 13th, Friday. And according to the NCAA website, it's a 12 noon start. It's listed as TBA on the Stony Brook Athletics site, but that will probably be updated. But at least for now, unless we hear otherwise, count on 11:45 a.m. on Friday. So that is going to do it here on WUSB Stony Brook. Many thanks to you guys.